if you have some serious money to burn and you just want to have something with overall like great performance, but it needs to be plug and play solution, maybe I found something that can be of your interest. In today's video, we're going to be doing a plug and play solution with the Chris Coolmod 2 TB drive I wanted to check out. Because this can be an interesting solution if you're going to be buying a mini PC of a certain, like say, caliber. And that is going to be something we're going to be chit-chatting about, because this is going to be a wild ride. So this is an AMD Ryzen mini PC in 7000 series. So when it comes to these machines, they are getting a little bit more cheaper throughout the day because they're getting a little bit older. But you know, when it comes to this mini PC with the onboard 780M GPU, we're going to be having a lot of fun because we're going to be combining this with the SSD from Chris Coolmod. So this is like a fully optimized solution, and with that we can just plug and play. So what is a little bit of problem with mini PCs? Finding one that have like an onboard GPU like from Nvidia, it's going to be super pricey. But this can be an interesting option because if you're going to be combining this SanDisk 2 TB drive, we can just install and set up everything very quickly. And this way we can just actually play all kinds of games. But how beast is the retro beast? That's what we're going to be finding out. So in here we're going to be having an overall, let's say, explanation, like what we need to do. And what I understand of him is like this is going to be super easy. This is not going to be a lot of work. Just click and go. So let's find out. So connecting can be done two different ways. I'm going to be using the fast USB-C port over here, but also it utilizes an adapter if you're going to be using this through a normal USB 3.0 port. Super convenient. So moving on to the mini PC. So everything has been set up, and what we're going to be needing to do is make sure that it's going to be the letter D over here. But before we're going to be playing any games further, we're going to be doing is having the drivers all in one runtime, because we're going to be needing to install everything. In the main folder we're going to be having over here RetroBeast 64 CoinOps, and then moving on all the way here at the bottom we're going to be having the RetroBeast Mini 2 TB application. But it took some time to actually boot up, but let's see what's going on. Let's press the A button over here with the RetroBeast Mini, and there we go. But let's do a quick overview and let's see what we're getting. For emulation we're going to be using actually the Xbox 360 controller with some Xbox 360 emulation. And I just want to deep dive into this craziness. You can actually see it's utilizing the onboard GPU 100%. We're hitting like 30 frames, and the overall it's quite stable when it comes to that. So Xbox 360 is one of the systems that we can actually play now. But of course, depending on when it comes to what kind of game you actually want to use. Man, Xbox 360 is absolutely looking amazing. And this is just running on, let's say, the onboard GPU. So if you're going to be having this overall situation, having a better GPU, we're going to be having even, of course, better just solutions. But let's do a quick tour and let's see what is going on. So when it comes to, let's say, an image like this, it's a very small image compared with other stuff that we've seen. Okay, we're going to be needing Windows, and it's going to be still like a plug and play solution. But what is going to be different with, let's say, those cheaper ones you can actually find, is that this is going to be so much more optimized. And of course, we're going to be having some support if there are any problems. However, we do have like also all kinds of different games that we can play now. And with a more powerful machine we're going to be using, we have like some PlayStation 1 and 2 and 3 emulation. So now, but let's do a quick overview of a couple of systems. Let's see how far we can push it and what can we actually play. Because with this craziness, we have so much new stuff and new kind of platforms to use. But how does it actually look if you just want to go into the listing of the games? So wait, it is actually like a mini collection. We're not going to be expecting a lot of craziness over here. So, you know, it's kind of cool that Xbox 360 is here, but we're going to be needing a quite beefy PC to actually play the games. So that is absolutely one thing you need to take consideration. Even with this AMD Ryzen, we're going to be pushing it to its limit. So I don't know what's about you, but you can actually say that we do have like a lot of glitches going on with Xbox 360, and I do wonder why that actually is. Let's see if the character selection screen looks great, or is it just normal? But let's see how far we can push it with Xbox 360. Of course, the compatibility with certain games is better than other ones, but you can sometimes see that it's going to be crazy pushing it to the 100%, dipping. But we can actually play it on this particular device, so that is pretty cool to actually see this game running. But let's deep dive into some other games. Okay, that is not normal. So you can actually see that when it comes to compatibility, it still struggles. If this is like a GPU thing, it's kind of weird. It's unfortunate because the overall performance is quite good. We're seeing like 100%, but it is running on 60 frames per second. I'm already going to be adding games, or at least like games you can just buy from Steam. I'm more like, you know, what's the point of having this in a collection like this? I think you can just add your Steam account and just play those games that way, because it's going to be just as easy. Where I highly doubt that this is actually running on, let's say, an emulator whatsoever. I think this is actually just the overall original Windows version. So this is a game I always love to check out. The loading times will be a little bit longer than normal. And let's see how many frames it's running. So we do hit like 60 frames per second. That made me wonder one thing, is if you're going to be getting out of this. Normally, if you go into here, you can actually go to the graphic settings, and this is why 1280 by 720. And this is what you need to do with these, let's say, basic mini PCs with an onboard GPU that doesn't have like a more powerful, like an RTX card in the inside. Of course, we can start tweaking, but this has to be automatically set to this point that it is going to be plug and play ready. And runs on maybe even like a lower end, like say mini PC too. But yeah, we also have really old school stuff like Sinclair ZX Spectrum, another very cool system that I do start to like, but I have no personal connection with it. So let's see what is going on with this. Green Beret. Oh, play that so much on the NES. Oh man, how do I play this? Like keyboard. Oh, that sound awful. It does work. Okay, what just happened? The guy just jumped over me and I'm dead. Okay, let's try that again. Ah, we need to jump and stab. Because I am the super stabber. And I explode. But if you want to play some Sinclair, you can just do that on a simple machine nowadays. So that costs like maybe 40 bucks. So, and the same goes actually for this. You don't need like a beefy PC to play the old school MAME games like in 64th Street I always love to do. So out of the box, what is kind of cool, they implemented some kind of a CRT filter with scan lines and have this beautiful like banded screen. I don't know if even the camera picks it up, but it is really looking awesome. I do know that this will consume a little bit more power of the CPU-GPU situation. But yeah, for a mini PC this caliber, we're not going to be having any issues whatsoever. But I think at this point there's nothing really, let's say, more demanding in here. And I mean, in particular when it comes for like Tekken or some other ones. So we're going to be going further. And yeah, the same goes for Atari stuff. We can just play this on like cheaper game boxes now. So you don't need to buy an expensive mini PC. The Atomiswave can be interesting with a simple reason. Because now we can do a little bit of an upscaling if you want to. So for example, if you want to play some Atomiswave, you can do a little bit of an upscaling that I've messed around before. But let's see how it looks and how it plays. I couldn't really see if there was anything going on with upscaling. But Atomiswave is always like a little bit of a situation that is so difficult to over-emulate. and maybe particularly on those cheaper game boxes that we're going to be needing a PC for most of the time. Faster speed is, by the way, in game you really don't see often. It's more giving me some Need for Speed vibes. Let me show you what I mean. Faster than speed. Let's go with this pretty interesting concept. But one thing I just wanted to see, like, can we actually move? Okay, let's see what's going on. We can just have different paint jobs. Let's boot it up. But this game looks pretty good. But I'm afraid I cannot really drive. That's one of those things I've noticed throughout, let's say, many emulators. Oh, we can accelerate. Wait, something happening. This game looks really good. I can accelerate, but I cannot steer. So that's something you should absolutely look into. But this game is looking pretty cool. ColecoVision with the Smurfs on the background. It's not can get more wicked than that. So ColecoVision is actually something I did try out some cheaper game boxes, and you know, they run just fine on those. It's fun that's actually in there. So we're having Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast is going to be absolutely cool. However, let's see, I can press start to make it like a favorite, but I do wonder what kind of specs he's actually using. So if you're going to be playing some Sega Dreamcast on a mini PC with the image, this is looking really great. So I've been playing Sega Dreamcast on, let's say, those cheaper game boxes, and it's all fun and game, but they're not like running on the full speed some of the times. And of course, running native, everything looks really choppy, or like some really old school with some crazy amount of pixels. But this, yeah, is absolutely amazing. Dreamcast Indies. Okay, this is going to be interesting, because this is one of those things that can be very unique, or it's going to be absolutely something I was not missing out on. We're having over here Ghostblade, some other stuff. What's going on? Matterrun. Oh, this looks cool. Neo something. I love myself some pretty cool shoot 'em ups. Or shmups. Moving on to some other stuff over here. So I think where we're going to be having all kinds of different devices too that can play just the old school handhelds. I think this is not going to be something, this is going to be like the ultimate edition for such an expensive overall kit. But Alien Hominid is absolutely a very genius game. So we also implemented a filter. I like this very interesting, I want to say, is a scanline filter? I want to say the overall way how this looks is not bad at all. But emulation performance, I'm not expecting any problems here. Let's be honest, this is like a game you can play on some simple game sticks nowadays. But with a PC and a combination like this with power, we're going to be having, of course, way more fun with playing some GameCube games, because that is some of the things you cannot play on every game box nowadays. So with GameCube combined with this AMD Ryzen, we can do some overall cool things. But I just wanted to show that this happens, like it's stuck. So let's reset it again. When actually using the stomp mode, somehow it was getting stuck. Okay, so let's give it a reboot, and it seems to be working just fine now. But yeah, emulation of GameCube, we can push it. We're trying a lot of different emulation on mini PCs. The vibrator mode is actually active with the Xbox 360, so that's kind of cool with a controller. You can actually push this to the limit. N64 is another system. We can actually play on some of those cheaper game boxes, but of course if you want to push it to the limit, we're going to be needing more power, and now we're going to be actually can do that. However, I've been messing around with game, let's say with N64 on some N100 chipsets and like the low end parts, and you can easily do some really decent emulation. So combining this maybe with like a low end chip, you can actually play N64 just fine. Don't have any weird glitches. It's clear, I can see that it is not running on native resolution, it's running on some higher resolution, so that's cool. Because this looks so much less pixelated than we have seen before. But with power having now with this AMD Ryzen, we're not going to be having overall, let's say, problems with emulation. Or it needs to be like an overall problem with the emulator itself. But the part is actually even more interesting. It's going to be the PlayStation part, because we're going to be having some pretty cool things that we can do here. We have tested out a lot of, let's say, different kind of systems, but you know, it's always a little bit of problematic when it comes to playing PlayStation 2 emulation. But first let's do also PlayStation 1 to see how they upscaled everything and how does it actually look. Because with PlayStation 1, you need to take consideration too, is like if you want to play PlayStation 1, you don't care about upscaling. There are many really budget options out there that cost like a fraction of all of this, and you can just play it just fine. However, I think with a PC, we're having so many really cool overall performance, and I think it's absolutely awesome. Nevertheless, I love it how he did it with all of the hardware. Oh man, I can tell you that if you're going to be scraping, adding videos and everything, this can take absolutely forever. But let's deep dive into a game or so. Ooh, AirType, yes. I do wonder one thing, it's like, it's kind of cool that they implemented the original logos, because this is pure nostalgia. However, I think it's like, is there a way to actually like put in a script or like a setting that you can just skip it? Sometimes I think it's like so much more convenient if it's just going to be skipped automatically. Yeah, okay, that is not a good thing, or what it is. Okay, that was kind of weird that the loading was over there, okay. But let's see what's going on with the overall emulation of PlayStation 1. Yes, I want to continue, please. Thank you. So AirType, I do have like a love and hate relationship with this game because it's so freaking awesome, but it's so freaking brutal. Ooh, the rumble function also enabled. Oh, you can see that it's running on so better overall resolutions now. But it is kind of weird that that I'm using B over here with the PlayStation. That is kind of weird. Maybe it has to do with the controller input, but of configuration, but that's kind of weird to be honest, because you would expect to have A over here to use. It's maybe something you should look into what is going on. But again, like if you love PlayStation 1 emulation, there are so many different ways to actually play that. But with a PC like this, we can do some crazy upscaling and everything looks so much better. Particularly if you're going to be playing this on like a massive display, like a 55-inch. Analog doesn't do anything, so we're going to be needing to use the D-pad. But you know, when it comes to PlayStation 1 emulation, I don't expect any problems here. But let's go back to the menu itself and let's see what we're going to be having more on there. Ooh, Ridge Racer. Dude, where's Revolution? Oh no, he didn't implement a Revolution. At least have like Ridge Racer 1, Revolution, Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer, how you call that. He didn't implement Type 4. 3, 2, 1, this looks pretty good too. Last night I've been playing this on my PlayStation, on a CRT. But this upscale situation looks absolutely so much better. Also implemented the audio, it's absolutely awesome. Oh, damn it. But also here, no problem whatsoever. I do wonder, like, when it comes to the emulator, what kind of emulator is he using? Is he using DockStation? Because I understand that DockStation has a way better overall configuration. You see those lines, but can I drift? No, I think I have the wrong car for that. And then of course we're going to be having PlayStation 2. And I think this is going to be even more interesting because I was always searching for an overall solution for this. But of course, again, like if you're paying a lot of money for, let's say, in 7,000-8,000 series, yeah, you're going to be expecting to have some really cool overall emulation when it comes to PlayStation 2, if you set it up correctly. After waiting for an hour or so to do that freaking intro to stop playing and finishing up. So it's time for some Burnout Racing, and I'm just going to be honest, I'm not really surprised that it actually works perfect at this point. Besides my driving skills. Don't see any dips, or at least to a certain point that's going to be problematic, like 1 frame a second, but that's normal so far I understand. You can actually see that it does utilizes the GPU 100%, so I do wonder what kind of rendering resolution this game has been set to. But the way everything works, if you want to go back to the menu and so, that works quite well and very fast. And of course, let's try out some God of War to see how that runs. So the first time you need to boot up a game, it will actually load up this particular window over here. And it will take up quite a long time. It's more like he's unzipping or something. Yeah. But this takes some time, the first attempt you're going to be booting up a game. But when it comes to, let's say, the God of War, I'm going to be having more demanding games. I would not expect any problems here too. So, you know, if you're going to be spending that amount of money for a game system, oh yeah, that's what's happening. I would say you're not expecting any problem. There we go. So it's so funny when I'm going to be like recording and talking and stuff like that happens. Like sometimes I'm feeling I'm jinxed, you know, with these things. I'm always finding bugs, things don't start up, and you know, it's kind of funny, but you know, that happens. But let's play a little bit more to see what's going on. And now, I must say that, and that is one thing, I think that this possibility is that I was actually like leaving this thing idle for, I think, an hour or so. Maybe the PC was putting the external SSD in sleep mode, because that was actually how it was looking. Because you can notice that it was actually loading up into the system itself. But yeah, I'm not expecting any problems there. So let's get back to the main menu. And the other thing I actually wanted to do is let's try some PlayStation 3 and let's see what's going on over here. So when it comes to PlayStation 3, I think for me this is the final, like say, platform great for overall emulation. And I mean, like if you're having PlayStation 4 Pro, like what the heck? Like even if there is like an emulator out there that can play, a lot of games have been ported actually to, besides like the certain titles of course, have been ported to the PC too. So yeah, again, I think it's going to be just an overall situation, like do you really care about a PS4? For me it's not like worth it. So when it comes to the overall library of PS3 games, you can see it's quite small, and I think that's why it's called like the mini edition. And I think it's a little bit of a bummer when it comes to that, because when it comes, if you want to have like PlayStation 3 emulation, this mini is not going to be something that is actually worth buying. I think you're going to be needing to have it all the way up to PlayStation 2 at this point. But let's boot it up and let's try a couple of games. Oh, this is a game I played so much on my PlayStation 3. It was such an overall good version, or good at least, like I think it's like a really cool graphical version. Still, my favorite one will be the one from the Panasonic video. And the same goes actually for Borderlands 2. Like for me it feels kind of pointless having this on emulation, because we can just buy the game, or I guess it's like in my case I can just load it up from my Steam account and just play it like that. I personally prefer it like to do that. So because those games, let me know in the comments what you think of that. But I call God of War 3 and stuff like that has never been ported to the PC. That is pretty cool to actually play and emulate. So with the convertibility, it's going to be great when it comes to the certain games of the PlayStation 3 emulator. It's absolutely awesome to see that we can actually emulate So how far we can actually upscale it, I think that's going to be a debatable situation, because now with PS3 emulation we can do upscaling, making it even looking better. But if you're going to be doing that, even if that was possible with this particular, like say, package, you're going to be needing so much more GPU power. So I would not expect it doing anything of those things. Well, let's see what's going on over here. I'm really curious, like if this is going to be an overall playable situation. And again, like this has nothing to do with the SSD itself. It's like the power you actually bring on. Oh, controls vibrating like crazy. So at this point, I don't know what kind of settings they were using on this. There was no way of getting into the menu. But you can actually see that this is not going to be an overall playable situation. So we're going to be needing having way more power. So when it comes to a God of War. So my 7000 mini PC is absolutely a cool combination, but all we need to be like tweaking. Maybe something has been set up to a certain level when it comes to, let's say, the maybe upscaling that this PC cannot handle at all. But okay, when it comes to PlayStation 3, we're going to be needing a little bit of tweaking. And I do wonder like what kind of stuff that they actually implemented. PlayStation 4 Pro, what's going on with that? Let's see, Bloodborne. And there's actually the only thing that we're getting over here. After this one has been ported to the PC. Bloodborne, I think it wasn't, or it is, it wasn't, no. So this would be like one of those games that can be pretty cool, but let's see if we can even boot it up and how does it actually work when it comes to the device I'm using over here. So let's see what we can do in the system. Environment can be changed out, within brightness, language and everything. Well, let's go with the emulation performance. Yeah, so having a Herc PC combined with this is not going to be an overall good fun experience. You can see that it struggles and it shuts down. So yeah, that's not going to be working anytime soon. So at this point we cannot actually do anything when it comes to the specs. Cannot get into the menu. That's something I think he's going to be looking that out. So you cannot mess with the settings. But where we have like some debatable situation with PlayStation 4 and PS3 and stuff like that. So PlayStation 3 is like, of course, how the setting has been put, and I think the idea of this, like the overall situation that you can just plug this thing in and just play games. But where I'm just using a mini PC now, he freaking didn't. Okay, however, so if you're going to be just messing around with it and you can actually do that, you just need to plug it in, set it up, and ready to go. So we have all kinds of cool stuff. We also have the Sega Saturn and everything. Yep, we can actually just play those games too. And I think it's not going to be a problem. The same goes actually when it comes to playing some Sega Dreamcast. We can all have like great overall performance there. I love it how they implemented this CRT look, where the screen is also bent a little bit. But again, like it's more like a personal preference. I don't really need it, but you know, it's kind of cool. Also have been set to the right aspect ratio. But if you're going to be looking into some Sega Saturn emulation and Sega Dreamcast, so Dreamcast nowadays we can play it on native resolution on many devices. Saturn is a different story. I also tested out the Sega Dreamcast on some low-end and older PCs to see what's actually possible. And I must say, when it comes to Sega Saturn, I have some really overall great results when it comes to emulation performance on some basic old mini PC I've picked up for 80 bucks. So at that point, I think if you don't care about upscaling and you're thinking, hey, I want to emulate Saturn for not a lot of money through Battlesera, for example, you can do that for not a lot of money too. But out of the box, yeah, this thing works absolutely cool. But also Sega's 32X and Sega CD are actually systems that we do see more often now on like 40 bucks game devices. So I think I don't want to deep dive into it today, but you know, the same goes for the SG-1000 and stuff like that. Even the Sharp 68,000, do I say that correctly? Or yeah, 68,000 and many other devices that can be played without any hassle. But maybe devices like Wii and Wii U, that is different. Let's get into Tatsunoko versus Capcom. I must say that when it comes to the emulator itself, I didn't have any problems with overall, let's say, emulation performance of the GameCube. Let's see how it is with the Wii itself. At the beginning I did notice some stuttering, but that has more to do with the PC itself I'm using than actually the hard drive or the SSD itself. See, that's what I mean. I still sometimes have this. You know, it's actually, it do make me wonder, like, what is going on? Like, it's needed loading up a lot of data. I would almost say like it's going to be started crashing, but but I think it has to do something with my drivers or some kind of this bloody freaking PC. But how about the Wii U part? It's a system you don't see actually a lot over here, because we don't have a lot of things going on with the Wii U, and of course a lot of cheap stuff don't even like support it. And even if it's supported, it cannot even handle it, because most of the devices we review is not powerful to win Wii U. So that's going to be fun with this particular one. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so the controls seem to be working like it's supposed to be. But it runs quite well, or I don't know if the skin is actually normally that is completely black, but you can actually use this perfectly in an arcade machine. You can just set it up, automatically boot into the Retro Beast Mini. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool. You cannot like very easily exit, let's say, the menu itself. You need to press escape on the keyboard, so that's super convenient. Yeah, and the overall configuration is ready to go. But do you actually going to be needing a Retro Beast with such a premium PC? That's of course the question only you can answer, because there are so many different solutions out there that can do all kinds of 8-bit, 6-bit and handhelds without any problem for a fraction of what it costs. But that's the question. We can also deep dive a little bit more into it with a more powerful PC and see how far we can push it. You could join me here on the channel, and it would be great to see you in the next video.